Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha Ras Bihari Radha Ras Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Krishna Chandra Radha Krishna Chandra Radha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Subhadramai Jaya Sudarshan Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Ananta Dev Prahlad Narasimha Jayo Ananta Jaya Nitai Chaitanya Jayo Nitai Chaitanya Nitai Chaitanya Jaya Nitai Chaitanya Jaya Jai Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Nitai Gauranga Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol. All Premanande, Hari Hari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajapacharya Stotra Shata. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajapacharya Stotra Shata. His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Das Thakur ki Jai. जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ षड गोस्वामी प्रभुगण की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर की जय। जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण चंद्र गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिराज महाराज की जय। मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर नवदीप धाम की जय। श्री क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। जमुना माई की जय। कावेरी माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories and glories and glories to Sri Guru and God. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hi Krishna, sir. Today we're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. And just give me 1 minute to get my yes. Canto 3, canto title The Status Quo, and chapter number 22, Marriage of Kartam Muni and Devahuti. Today we are reading the text number 35. Ayatayama tasyasana yamasava antaraya pana shranvanta dhyananta vishnu purvanta bruvanta katha ayanta yamaha tasyasana yamasva antaraya pana shranvantya dhyananta vishnu Kuruvanta bruvanta katha ayanta yamatasya asana yamasva antaraya panaha shrunvanta dhyananta vishnu kuruvanta bruvanta katha. So our class will be in English today. If devotees want to chant the shloka, they can chant. Word-to-word translation. Ayantayama, time never lost. Dasya of Manu. Asana, were. Yama, the hours. Swanantara, his duration of life. Yapanaha, bringing to an end. Shunuvanta, hearing. Dhyayanta, contemplating. Vishnu, of Lord Vishnu. Kuruvanta, acting. Bruvanta, speaking. Katha, the topics. Translation. Consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life consisting of Manvantara era was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Purport: as freshly prepared food is very tasteful, but if kept for 3 or 4 hours becomes stale and tasteless. So the existence of material enjoyment can endure as long as life is fresh. But at the fag end of life, everything becomes tasteless, and everything appears to be in vain and painful. The life of Emperor Swayambhu Munu, however, was not tasteless. As he grew older, his life remained as fresh as in the beginning because of his continued Krishna consciousness. The life of a man in Krishna consciousness is always fresh. It is said that the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, and its business is to reduce the duration of everyone's life. But the sunrise and sunset cannot diminish the life of one who engages in Krishna consciousness. I repeat this. But the sunrise and sunset cannot diminish the life of one who engages in Krishna consciousness. Swambhu Manu's life did not become stale after some time, for he engaged himself always in chanting about and meditating upon Lord Vishnu. He was the greatest yogi because he never wasted his time. It is specially mentioned here, Vishnu Kuruvanto Bruvanto Katha. When he talked only of Krishna and Vishnu and the personality of Godhead. When he heard something, it was about Krishna. When he meditated, it was upon Krishna and his activities. It is stated that his life was very long, 71 yugas. One yuga is completed in 43,20,000 years. 71 of such yugas is the duration of life of Manu, and 14 such Manus come and go in one day of Brahma. For the entire duration of his life of 43,20,000 into 71 years, Manu engaged in Krishna consciousness by chanting, hearing, talking about, and meditating about Krishna. Therefore, his life was not wasted, nor did it become stale. Om Tat Sat. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, chapter titled The Marriage of Kardam Muni, and text number 35. Amagyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshururmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuda Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes to the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances. Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna. Very important and a very dynamic verse today that we're talking about. Swayambhu Manu, who lived for such a long duration of life, and even during the whole long duration of life, Srila Prabhupada mentions that he did not get bored, or it was not stale for him, or he didn't feel bored of whatever he was doing. Why was this lifetime so important, and why was it so dynamic? Is basically because he always thought about Krishna, recited about Krishna, read about Krishna, and chanted the holy name of the Lord. So the same process is given to us by Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas in our parampara. They always spoke about thinking of Krishna, chanting the holy name of the Lord, always engaged in the service of the Lord. Now, if you look at Srimad Bhagavatam, it is specifically meant for this Kali Yuga, because the life in Kali Yuga is very short-lived, our memory is very short, we waste our life, we are disturbed, we are very lazy, we are lethargic. And that's the reason why Srimad Bhagavatam is so specifically meant for this Kali Yuga. Every body in this material life goes through 6 phases. That is birth, growth, maintenance, reproduction, dwindling, and death. Is there anybody who's bereft of this? No. Everybody has to go through this. The one who takes material birth has to go through. Naturally, the birth is already taken. So after that, you have growth. You have to maintain this body, regularly taking care of it, regularly ensuring that the body doesn't fall sick. Then there is reproduction that happens. Following that, it also dwindles as we go beyond that. And then finally, it is the death which takes over this body. We are just passengers in this body. The soul is absolutely unborn and never dies. That's very clearly stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 20. Na jayate mriyate va kadachan. Nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyan. Ajo nityam shasvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Very clearly, for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will never come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existent, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So it is only the body which actually slains. The death is only for the body and never for the soul. And human form of life is very important for us to realize this, saying that we are in a temporary place. We have to leave this body and go back home, back to Godhead, which is the most important part of it. But even before that, one needs to realize that human form is not meant for just coming and doing the 6 activities and they say everything's over. And human society, if we see, is only heading towards the reputation for birth and death. They keep coming and going, keep coming and going. And when we, at the time of death, if you are in the mode of passion, they again take birth. In whatever mode of, whether it is passion, ignorance, or goodness, they get a different body. So if we are in the mode of ignorance, then either we get a body of an animal or an insect. Passionate, yes, sometimes you get a human body. And if we are in the mode of goodness, then we go to heavenly planets. So for us, it is very important that we need to go beyond the goodness. We enter into Shuddha Sattva. And that's where we go back from back to Godhead. Well, if we look at material body in the beginning, is very nectarian. But as we move on, it actually shows its color. And Srila Prabhupada uses this very popular word called phantasmagoria. Yeah. And this phantasmagoria that we really hear Srila Prabhupada talking about is saying that this is absolutely something which is untrue, which is not there at all. But there's so much so created around it, saying that we get lost into this world. It's like a child who is building a castle. We see many children, even while we were small, we used to do so when you go to either a seashore or when we go near the river. From the sand that is available, we build a house. And a beautiful house is built, a beautiful castle is built, a beautiful, structure is built. But what happens to the structure? This is very short-lived. As soon as the waves of water come and touch it or take it away, it's all gone. Likewise, the material body that we take today is temporary and it is not at all permanent. For some of us, it lives for 30, 40, 50 years. For some of them, it may live for about 100 years or 110 years, not beyond that. And for some others, it is very, very short. It can be as short as probably one day. The baby is born from the womb and immediately dies. For some, it will be a few months. For some, it will be very few years. But nevertheless, it is very temporary. In the material world, we are all victimized by this mind. The mind is the most important area where we get victimized by. Now, there's another very simple example. We look at it. The construction of a honeycomb. The bees collect a lot of nectar from all the flowers in and around and start constructing the honeycomb. Well, if you see the honeycomb, the bee never enjoys the honey, the sweetness of honey. They are only stung by the other bees. Similarly, human beings are also very busy constructing a honeycomb. Never to enjoy. We are always suffering. We are creating beehives. These beehives, when we create, then we are stung by the other bees, the other fellow living entities. Adhyatmik, Atibhautik, and so this challenges that we face are created by ourselves, whether it is the trouble that is created by the fellow human beings, it is created by laws of nature or nature itself or the higher living entities. Everything gets destroyed in the course of time. And our greed for material enjoyment is what brings us to this destroying. We get destroyed because it is very popularly said that there is everything for everybody's need. God has created everything for everybody's need, but not for their greed, which is the worst thing which can hit us. Today, a human being has a small house he yearns for a bigger house. When he has a bigger house, then he yearns for a mansion. And when he has a mansion, he actually yearns for a palace or yearns for a house on moon. He's not satisfied. His greed never gets satisfied because of his mind, which is always thinking about it, and which is the worst enemy for a human man, for a human being. We make plans to enjoy this material world. Every day when we get up, we make this plan for enjoying in the material world. And we've seen this happening with all our near dear ones, our parents, our grandparents. They've never enjoyed it. They've never been able to enjoy the material, but we still take this example of, I would like to enjoy, I would want to enjoy. And we start making big plans. It's like when, in the slaughterhouse, when the sheep is being taken for slaughtering, it's given greens, We seeing another one getting slaughtered, but the next one feels that I will never have this problem. I will still enjoy the greens which are made available to me. And we never look at the trouble that is going to happen. And ultimately, the living entity gets frustrated. Frustrated by so many things, problems by our fellow human beings, problems by our own near dear ones. There's problems, the economic problem, the so-called economic problems, the price rise, the other challenges, the traffic that is being created, the pollution that is being created, all of that. And we're getting frustrated. I'm sure some of us who've lived for a long time in Bangalore would realize that Bangalore was a very serene kind of an atmosphere. You would not see so much of pollution. You'll have high-rise, trees which were there, which would give out pure oxygen. But these days, because of our greed, all the trees have been cut, all the gardens have gone, all the lake beds or water bodies have already gone, and we are seeing only multi-story buildings. And what is happening ultimately to us? Initially, we thought it was all hunky-dory, it was all nice, there's no problem. We're building skyscrapers, so I can live on the 52nd floor, I can live on the 60th floor and all of that. But today, we're getting frustrated. And the frustration is because of our own creation, our own greed that we've had. There's a very nice example where Lord Shiva is actually talking about this in the Rudra Puran. Lord Shiva said this to the Prachetas, the children of Prachinavahi, that just execute your kingly duties with pure heart and chant the prayers I have recited, fixing your mind on the lotus feet of the Lord, and that will bring you all good fortune. In the Rudra Gita, Lord Shiva is singing this, prayers for Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva. And these are known as hymns of liberation. And this was given directly to the Prachetas for their ultimate spiritual perfection. And Lord Shiva wanted the Prachetas to reach the ultimate spiritual perfection. And that's where he recited this Rudra Gita. But if we really see, we feel that sometimes we are happy. But this happiness is all flickering. Material world will give us happiness or distress depending on the time that we are in. Early morning when we get up and we see a beautiful weather, we are happy about it. But then as the day goes on, you listen to TV, you listen to radio, it talks about deaths, it talks about suicide, it talks about all the traffic jam that you have. Then on top of it, it says the weather is going to be either too cold or too warm today. And you set out for work. On the way, you come across so many problems on the way, accidents, traffic everywhere, people just not following the rules and regulations set by the traffic police. Then once you reach work, then you have conflicts which happen. Somebody comes and tells you something, then you pick up fights. And as the day goes on, especially in the Western world, we find, people just step out for a little while just because they've already had so many problems morning to raise their spirits and go to, some place where they can raise their spirits. But then the spirits are not really laced it actually gives them problem with their mental, neurologically it gives them problems because they drink during the day. Even during the night is bad. And then it is called we become maniacs. We're actually mad people. In Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 2, in the 14th verse, Krishna says, Matra Svarsheshtu Kaunteya Sitoshna Sukha Dukkada Agama Payino Nityas Tam Tiktikshava Bharata. It says very clearly, O Arjuna, this non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and the disappearance in the due course, they are also not permanent. The happiness that comes is not permanent. The distress that comes is also not permanent. They are like appearance and disappearance of winter and summer season. In the summer season, you wouldn't want to take a hot water bath. In the winter, we crave for hot water bath. Forget about hot water bath, we would also want to drink hot water. So likewise, these are different seasons in which we act differently. And they basically arise out of sense perceptions. And one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. This is the instruction that Krishna gives us in Bhagavad Gita. Mind is always engaged in 4 things. Now, these are very 4 important things. I'm sure a little attention will be required to be given here. And this is very much in every human being. And this is our contaminated consciousness. We are only thinking about those 4 things. Just sit quietly and think about this as well. We are either thinking of Kamini, we are thinking about Kanchan, we are thinking about Jai, and we are thinking about Parajay. So you are thinking about Kanchan, which is money. We're always thinking, how can I make more money? How can I save this money? How can I, get more out of what I invest? How can I get more money from my business? How can I get more money from my job? And mind is constantly thinking of this. If I invest this money here, how will I get more money? Or if I give it to this person, how can I get more money? The second one is thinking about Kamini. It is the person of opposite sex. We're always thinking about them. We're thinking about Jai. That is win over somebody. When you're talking to somebody and then, you kind of put your argument across and then people accept it. So that's the kind of Jai that you really think of. Whatever I say should happen. Whatever is my thought should happen. When I tell my children sit down, they should sit down. When I tell my children go to college, they should go to college. When I tell my children to read, they should sit and read. Likewise, on the other side, we have Parajay. That is a defeat. Defeat is when people don't listen to you or people don't accept your opinion. So we are always worried about doing something. Oh my God, will they listen to me? Will they accept me? Will they accept what is my opinion? Or how do I ensure that, I win over them? How do I ensure and I enforce what I'm saying is right? So we are only thinking about Kanchan, Kamini, Jai and Parajay. We need to get out of this 4 material energies which are there. It's not material energy, it's actually the 4 material thoughts that we get. And they're also temporary. Today you may have money, tomorrow you may not have money. Today what we feel in the opposite sex is attracting us. Tomorrow the same thing is actually something which will push you away from that person. Today you're thinking of the win, the Jai. But then that is also not permanent. Today you win over somebody, tomorrow you may lose the same thing. At the same time, you're thinking about Parajay. This person did not listen to me. He did not accept what I said. He did not follow what I said. So that's the negative thinking that one gets in. But then that is also not permanent. But one human being has to really get over this 4 things that we really always are meditating on. In the material world, instead of meditating on the holy name of the Lord, human beings are all meditating on these 4 things. You can look around you. Anybody for that matter will be falling under these 4 categories, either among the 4 categories or multiple of those categories. Somebody is thinking about money and women at the same time. Somebody is thinking of money and winnings at the same time. Somebody is thinking of Kamini and Parajay at the same time, or one of them. So we have to understand, where does happiness come from and where does the peace come from? This happiness, this peace will come to us from when we are in control of things. As soon as we are in control of these things, we will have peace. And we cannot engage our mind when it is disturbed or agitated. If I keep thinking about money always, that means my mind is agitated. I will not be able to control my mind at all. I will not be able to focus on what I want to do. At the same time, Krishna consciousness is a science. Trust me, it is science. Krishna consciousness is a science of controlling and understanding that all the control comes from Krishna. We are not the doer, we are not the controllers. We cannot do anything. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam. That means Krishna is the center of everything. He should be the enjoyer. Why? Because he is Ishvara Para. He is Ishvara Parama. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he is the only one who can give us perfect peace and harmony. Unless one surrenders to Krishna, unless one surrenders to the Lord and serves either the holy name or devotees or the deity form of the Lord, we will never be able to get control of this. Forget about anything else. While we are sitting, we fall asleep. We don't even have control of our own bodies. We are thinking of something while the bead bag is in our hand. So that means we have no control on our own self. Unless one surrenders to the holy name, unless one surrenders to the devotees, unless one surrenders to a guru, unless one surrenders to the Lord and serves all of them, we will never be able to have control on this. Engagement of mind in the service of the Lord is the most important thing. And we should all be subjected to Krishna consciousness. Well, why are we saying so? Let's take another example. That Krishna is the controller of everything. When there's a person who's taking a stick and hitting you, will you stand up and say, oh, stick, please stop hitting me? Oh, stop hitting me on my back, start hitting my leg because my back is aching. No, it is the person who's holding the stick and hitting you. You have to request him saying that, stop hitting, I'm tired now, I'm hurt now, and I will not do it. So here, instead of praying to the material world, we have to pray to the person behind the material world. And the person who's controlling the material world is Krishna. And our prayers have to be at Krishna's lotus feet, saying that I'm so tired of this material world. Enough is enough. I have noticed, I have experienced, I have gone through all the troubles that are happening in the material world. Give me one opportunity to go back home and stay with you and enjoy the bliss that you can give me. So our prayers have to be at the lotus feet of the Lord and not to the material world, saying that I'm not enjoying. If you give me a little more money, I'll enjoy. I'm not, winning this. If I get a little more power, I will win. So Jai will be mine. I will not face Parajay. All that. So we don't have to pray to the material world. We have to pray to the controller behind the material world, which is very important. The problem is with the material energy. It's not the problem with Krishna. So when the problem is with the material energy, Krishna is behind the material energy. So we have to approach Krishna. It's like you have a very vast ocean and you want to cross over from one side to another side. Can you go and pray to the ocean saying that, please, well, we are not Lord Ramachandra to pray to the ocean and the ocean gives way to you? No. So when you go to the ocean, can you tell the ocean, please take me to the other side of it? No, it is not possible. So you have to approach a captain of the ship and tell him, hey, sir, can you please take me across to the other side of the ocean? And he will be happy to do so. So the problem is with the material energy. So don't approach the material energy. Don't get entangled into the material energy. Don't fight against the material energy. Don't really stay with the material energy. Don't get into the greed mode of the material energy. Approach Krishna. Krishna is the person behind everything. He is also behind the material energy. Approach Krishna, folded hands under the shelter of a guru and say, Krishna, please protect me. I surrender unto you. I want to cross over this ocean. And then he will be happy. He will help you cross over the ocean. In Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first canto, 8th chapter, 8th verse, Srila Prabhupada says the Lord protects everyone. But one who depends completely upon him is specially looked after by the Lord. The Lord is not partial to anybody. Even if a person who doesn't like him, even if a person who's atheist, the Lord gives them equal opportunity. But here, Srila Prabhupada makes this very, very clear, saying that the one who depends completely upon the Lord, he is specially looked after. When we start depending on the Lord completely, we will be specially looked after by the Lord, which is what Krishna really tells us. Again, in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 12th canto, 3rd chapter, text number 51, very nicely it is said, Kalir dosha nite rajan asti eko mahaguna. Kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param vijate. Praje. My dear king, although Kali Yuga is the ocean of faults, so we find that this place where we are is ocean of faults. But still there is one good quality about this age, simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, or simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. One will become free from the material bondage and he'll be promoted to the transcendental kingdom, which is where we actually belong to. And this is how that we see in the shloka that Swayambhu Manu showed us this by his own example, by regularly chanting, by regularly reading and thinking of Krishna. We can cross over this material ocean. One automatically achieves the knowledge and detachment when we follow this path. At the same time, when we see Swayambhu Manu, he lived for a very, very long duration of time, but he never felt low or he never felt bored, or he was full of dynamism. He was full of bliss and knowledge because he regularly chanted, he regularly spoke about the holy name of the Lord, he always thought about Krishna. And when we do so, lust, those lusty desires that we have and the hankering that we have for this material world, they actually disappear from our heart. Material energy is always there to beat us. Constantly it is hitting us. But when we get onto this platform, we will be able to beat the material energy by siding with Krishna. When Krishna is on your side, you don't have to worry about anything. When you become transcendentalist, or when you come onto the transcendental platform, you beat the material energy. And by hearing the transcendental knowledge, a devotee is always happy. When we, in a group of devotees, when we discuss about Krishna Katha, when we talk about pastimes of Krishna, the activities of Krishna, we are all happy. That's the spiritual realization, which is very, very deep, and it is not hollow at all. And all the material attachments get eradicated when we get into that transcendental platform. And one finally understands that Krishna is the Supreme Master and we are all his servants. And contamination from this association with the material world is purified, and that is called Susukham. So here, with the great acharyas, with the great devotees, the examples are given to us as to how by regularly chanting, by regularly reading, by regularly associating, by regularly thinking, and by serving, we can actually get over this material world, which is not a good place for us to live. So that's the whole Samambhomam of Srimad Bhagavatam, that we have to get out of this material world and be happy under the protection of Krishna. So I will end the discussion here now. If there are any questions or if you have any comments, I'm happy to take them. And if there are any questions, I'll try and answer them. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you for the class. Thank you so much. I had a doubt regarding the Manus. Prabhuji, we know that as of now, Vaivasvata Manu is the current Manu. So,
Yeah.
so where is he, Prabhu? Where is his present? I mean, he is there, right? He's ruling the world. So, where will he be?
He's then as on abode. There is a separate abode for the Manus. They are not in the material world here like with us. Yeah, they have their own abode where the life is very, very long and all the benefits are available there. At the same time, just because all the benefits or all the luxuries are available, they do not really get carried away by those. It's not like the heavenly planets where they get carried away and the lifetime is long, 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 and they again fall back. So there they're constantly charging. They have their own abode where they are constantly thinking about the Lord. They're constantly talking about the Lord. They're constantly associating with the devotees. So they have a separate abode altogether, and that's where the Manus reside.
Oh, okay, Prabhu. So they are not in this material world, is it?
No,
But Brahma is still here, no?
Yeah, but they have a separate abode for themselves.
Okay. So what do they do now? What will he be doing right now? What is his duty?
See, he is constantly thinking about the Lord. Yeah,
Right.
and he's ruling that planet, which is their planet. And they do it like Raj Rishis. They rule it in a way that, their whole praja becomes devotees. They do not think anything other than the holy name of the Lord. They don't do anything wrong there.
But Prabhu, we are also like offsprings of him only, no, Prabhu? So
yes, you're very right, Mataji. We are all offsprings, but then what happened was, we decided that we wanted to be independent. And when that ego comes into us saying that I want to be independent, I want to be the Lord of myself, I want to be the Lord of the whole world, I want to be the Lord, forget about being the Lord of the whole world. We are trying to lord over the material nature. So that's where we are thrown into this material existence, and that's where we start suffering and repenting. And some of us repent and then realize that this is not the place where I'm supposed to be, and then we yearn. We want to go back. We want to actually go back home, back to Godhead, so that we can unite with our Supreme Father and serve Him eternally.
Right.
So that's where the ego came in, or the thought of independence which came into us, saying that I want to be independently ruling. I want to be independent of things. I want to be independent of the Lord, and that's the reason that we were all sent into the material world. Well, I would say exceptions being the acharyas, who actually come because they have to be participants. They are parshals of the Lord. They want to actually liberate us, and that's the reason the acharyas come, the senior Vaishnavas come, and they actually liberate us. But they are not conditioned.
Yes, Prabhu. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Radhaji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we'll close our discussion if there are no more questions. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.